The sky turned dark over Chicago as another superstorm gathered strength. John Miller stood by the window of the weather center, his face grim. For 30 years he had studied weather patterns, but nothing prepared him for what the data now showed. "This can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses as he looked at the computer screen again. But the numbers didn't lie. The new models showed that Earth had crossed a point of no return. The planet's climate systems were breaking down faster than anyone had predicted. Floods, fires, and storms were just the beginning. According to his calculations, within 5 years, large parts of Earth would become too hot for humans to survive. John ran his hand through his graying hair. He needed to tell someone, but who would believe him? The last scientist who made such claims was fired and called crazy by the media. He printed the report and slipped it into his bag. As he drove home through the rain, lightning struck a nearby power line. The street went dark. It felt like an omen dot across the country in California. Susan Wright sat alone in her office at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The clock showed 11:30 p.m., but she couldn't leave. Not after what she had discovered. Her computer showed strange energy readings from Earth's orbit. At first she thought it was a satellite malfunction, but after checking 3 different systems, the readings remained the same. Something was out there. Something that wasn't one of ours. Susan picked up her phone and called her boss, but it went to voicemail. She tried again in the morning during an emergency meeting. "You're saying you found aliens?" her boss asked with a laugh. Others around the table joined in. "I'm saying I found energy signatures that don't match any known spacecraft or natural phenomenon," Susan replied calmly. "We need to investigate this." "Dr. Wright, we're already facing budget cuts." "I can't waste resources chasing what is probably just a sensor error," her boss said. "Fix your equipment and focus on your actual job, or we'll find someone who will." As Susan left the meeting, her colleague Alan Hayes followed her into the hallway. "I believe you," he said quietly, "and I can help. My brother works at the radio telescope array in New Mexico. We can use it after hours, off the record." Susan looked at Alan's sincere face and nodded. "Tonight," she said, unknown to both scientists, millions of miles away, another meeting was taking place. The Ceridian High Council chamber was a vast room with curved walls that seemed to glow from within. 12 aliens sat around a floating table, their skin a pale blue, their eyes large and silver. They looked almost human, except for the faint markings that spiraled across their foreheads. "The humans are killing their planet," said council leader Ziv, her voice musical yet sad. "Our monitoring shows total environmental collapse within their lifetime." "It is not our concern," replied Elder Kale. "Our laws forbid interference with developing species. They must solve their own problems or face extinction. It is the natural way." Ambassador Tyrannox stood up, his young face determined. "With respect, there is nothing natural about this. We have watched humans for centuries. Yes, they are violent and often foolish, but they also create beauty unlike any we have seen. Their music, their art, their capacity for love and sacrifice. Can we really watch them die when we have the power to help?" "You are too attached to this species, Tyrannox," said Elder Kale. "Remember your place." "My place is to speak truth," Tyrannox replied. "We helped the Norians when their son began to die. Why are humans less deserving?" The council chamber filled with murmurs. Finally, Leader Ziv raised her hand for silence. "The Norians were peaceful. Humans wage war on each other constantly," she said. "They also save each other constantly," Tyrannox countered. "When disasters strike, even enemies work together. They risk their lives for strangers. They are young as a species, yes, but their potential is limitless." The council debated for hours. Finally, Leader Ziv spoke again. "We will send a small team to Earth, not to interfere, but to observe more closely, to determine if humans deserve our help. Tyrannox, you will lead this mission." Tyrannox bowed deeply, hiding his smile. Back on Earth, the first signs appeared on Tuesday. Small silver objects hovering high above major cities. They moved too fast for planes to catch, disappeared from radar almost instantly, but people saw them. Video spread online. In Washington, D.C., General Frank Doyle marched into the Oval Office without knocking. "Madam President, we have a situation," he said, placing photos on President LeVar Bennett's desk. Unidentified objects over New York, London, Beijing, and 17 other cities. "They're not ours, and no other nation has claimed them." President. Bennett studied the images. "Have they shown any hostile intent?" "Not yet," General Doyle admitted. "But their technology is clearly advanced. We need to capture one. Study it." "I've already authorized—" "You've authorized nothing," President Bennett interrupted. "We don't shoot first and ask questions later." "Set up a task force. Monitor these objects." "But no offensive action without my direct order." "Is that clear?" General Doyle's jaw tightened. "Yes, Madam President." After he left, President Bennett stared out the window at the Washington Monument. Were they being invaded? Or was something else happening? That night, John Miller was awakened by a strange sound his computer had turned on by itself. On the screen was a message. "We have seen your work, Earth's fate can be changed. Come to these coordinates. Come alone." Below was a set of numbers, pointing to a location in the Nevada desert. John's heart raced. Was this a joke? A threat? But how did they access his computer? And who knew about his climate models? Meanwhile, in her apartment, Susan Wright received the same message. So did Alan Hayes. 3 scientists, 3 messages. One location. As dawn broke, John packed a small bag, left a note for his neighbor to feed his cat, and began the long drive west. He didn't know what waited for him in the desert. He didn't know about Susan or Alan, both also traveling to the same spot. He didn't know about the Ceridian scouts already hiding on Earth, watching to see if humans would respond to their call. He only knew that if there was even a small chance to save the planet, he had to take it. Behind him, another storm gathered. Strength larger than any before it. Time was running out for Earth. Perhaps it already had. The Nevada desert stretched out in all directions, empty and silent. John Miller parked his car at the edge of a dry lake bed and checked the coordinates again. This was the place. He stepped out into the heat, squinting against the bright sun. Had he made a mistake in coming here? Then he saw a dust cloud in the distance. Another car was approaching. As it got closer, he recognized it as a rental similar to his own. The car stopped, and a woman stepped out. She had short, dark hair and moved with purpose. "Are you here because of the message?" she called out. John nodded. "I'm John Miller. I work at the National Weather Service." "Susan Wright, NASA." She walked toward him, her eyes wary but curious. "I got a message on my computer about Earth's fate. Did you get the same?" Before John could answer, a third car appeared. A younger man with glasses and a nervous smile joined them. "I'm Alan Hayes," he said. "I work with Susan at JPL. I guess we all got the same invitation." The 3 scientists stood awkwardly in the desert heat, each wondering if they had made a terrible mistake. Then Susan pointed to the sky. "Look!" A small silver object descended from above, making no sound. It was shaped like a teardrop and glowed faintly. The object hovered 10 feet off the ground. Then a door appeared in its side, opening smoothly. 2 figures stepped out. They looked almost human but were taller and more graceful. Their skin had a blue tint, and strange markings spiraled across their foreheads. Their eyes were large and silver, with no visible pupils. "Do not be afraid," said one of them in perfect English. "We mean you no harm?" John took an involuntary step back. Susan gasped. Alan dropped his water bottle. "My name is Alara," said the alien who had spoken. She gestured to her companion. "This is Vex. We are from a planet you might call Ceridia, though that is not our name for it." "You single quotes re ... Dylians," Alan said, his voice weak. Vex smiled. "To us you are the aliens." Susan was the first to recover from the shock. "Why are you here? Why contact us specifically?" Ilara's face grew serious. "Your planet is dying. The climate changes you have caused are approaching a final tipping point. Without intervention, your civilization will collapse within 5 years." "I know," John said quietly. "My models show the same thing, but no one will listen. We have been watching." Earth for centuries, Vex explained. Our civilization has technology that could reverse the damage. But our laws forbid interference unless certain conditions are met. What conditions? Alan asked. We must determine if your species deserves to be saved, Ilara said simply. The three humans exchanged glances. John felt anger rising in his chest. Who are you to judge if we deserve to live or die? He demanded. Ilara looked at him with sympathy. It is not about deserving to live. All life deserves to exist. The question is whether we should share our technology with you. Technology that could also be used for terrible destruction if misused. Miles away in Washington, D.C., President Lavra Bennett sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by military and intelligence officials. The objects have disappeared from our radar, reported the Air Force general. But we have confirmed sightings of one landing in Nevada. Do we have eyes on the landing site? President Bennett asked. Satellite imagery shows 3 civilian vehicles. And what appears to be a small spacecraft, said the CIA director, sliding photos across the table. We've identified 3 U.S. citizens at the site. General Frank Doyle leaned forward. Madame President, I recommend immediate military action. We need to secure that craft and any alien technology. President Bennett studied the photos. Those are civilians out there, General, American citizens. I won't risk their lives with a military strike. With respect, Madame President, national security is best served by caution at this point, she interrupted. Send a reconnaissance team, observe only. No engagement without my direct order. General Doyle's face hardened, but he nodded after the meeting. He made a private call to Colonel Greg Pierce, commander of a Special Forces unit. I have a mission for your team, General Doyle said quietly, off the books. Back in the desert, the 3 scientists sat inside the alien craft. The interior was surprisingly comfortable, with curved walls that glowed softly. Ilara showed them a holographic display of Earth. The red areas show critical damage to your ecosystem, she explained. The display showed most of Earth covered in red. The yellow areas are approaching critical levels. Can you really fix this? Susan asked, her voice hopeful for the first time in years. Yes, Vex said. But we need your help to convince our council that humans are worth saving. How do we do that? Alan asked. ELA handed each of them a small silver disc. These will allow you to communicate with us and share what you witness directly with our council. We need you to show us humanity's best qualities. What qualities? John asked. Cooperation. Compassion. Innovation, Vex replied. Show us humans working together to solve problems. Show us humans helping each other without reward. Show us human creativity and resilience. Susan turned the disc over in her hand. And if we can't convince your council? Ilara's silver eyes seemed to darken. Then we will depart, and Earth's fate will remain unchanged. As they spoke, a military helicopter flew high overhead, its presence masked by special technology. Inside, Colonel Pierce and his team took detailed photos of the alien craft. Sir, should we move in? Asked one of the soldiers. Colonel Pierce checked his orders again. Negative, we observe only, for now. What he didn't tell his men was the second part of his orders, locate and secure any alien technology, by any means necessary. As night fell over the desert, the 3 scientists prepared to leave. Each had agreed to travel to different parts of the world to document humanity's response to the escalating climate disasters. We'll be watching, Ilara assured them. The discs will allow us to see through your eyes if you permit it. What if someone tries to take these from us? John asked, pocketing his disc. They won't work for anyone else, Vex explained. And they can't be damaged by any technology humans currently possess. As the scientists drove away, each heading in a different direction, John couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility. The fate of humanity now rested partly on their shoulders. Could they prove that humans deserved to be saved? He wasn't sure, but for the first time in years, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope behind them. The alien craft rose silently into the night sky, disappearing among the stars, but they were not truly gone. Ilara and Vex would be watching. waiting to see if humans could demonstrate the qualities that might earn them a second chance, and in the shadows, Colonel Pierce's team moved in to examine the landing site, unaware that their actions were being observed from above and that they too were being judged. 2 weeks after the desert meeting, John Miller stood on a muddy riverbank in Bangladesh. The water had risen again overnight, flooding another village. But instead of panic, he watched in amazement as the villagers worked together with quiet determination. They had built a floating platform using empty plastic bottles and bamboo. On top of this platform stood several small houses. As the water rose, so did their village. An old man saw John watching and smiled at him. "Every year the floods get worse," the man said in broken English. "So we learn to live with the water." "Not fight it?" John touched the silver disc in his pocket. "May I record what you're doing here?" he asked. The old man nodded. John activated the disc, allowing Alara and Vex to see through his eyes. He walked carefully across the floating village, showing the ingenious way the houses were anchored yet could rise with the floodwaters. "The design came from our children," the old man explained, pointing to a group of teenagers securing a new section of the platform. "They learned about floating structures in school and brought the idea home. Now 3 villages use this method." John smiled. This was exactly what he needed to show the Ceridian Council human innovation and cooperation in the face of disaster. Meanwhile, Susan Wright had traveled to Mexico City, where water shortages had become critical. She stood on a rooftop with Elena Garcia, a local engineer who had developed an atmospheric water harvester. "It pulls moisture from the air," Elena explained, showing Susan the solar-powered device. "1 unit provides enough clean water for 5 families. We've installed over 200 across the city." Susan activated her disc. "Did you develop this yourself?" Elena shook her head. "It was a community project. I had the idea, but my neighbors helped build the prototypes. The local university improved the design. Even children helped maintain them." Susan watched as people lined up below with containers, receiving their daily water ration. There was no pushing or arguing, just patience and gratitude. "We share what we have," Elena said simply. "It's the only way to survive." Across the ocean in Kenya, Alan Hayes documented another human triumph. Severe drought had killed crops and cattle, but a group of farmers had developed a system of underground irrigation using minimal water. "We dig channels beneath the soil," explained Joseph, the head farmer. "The water doesn't evaporate in the sun this way. We grow more food with less water." Alan activated his disc, showing the thriving farm surrounded by barren land. "Did the government help you with this?" Joseph laughed. "No, we saved money as a group to buy the first pipes. When other villages saw our crops survive, they joined us. Now we share our knowledge freely." As the 3 scientists gathered examples of human resilience, Colonel Pierce and his team had completed their mission. In a secure military facility, deep underground, they examined the damaged Ceridian scout ship they had captured. The small craft had separated from Alara and Vex's main ship and crashed during a storm. Inside, the scientists found technology beyond their understanding. General Doyle looked at the glowing engine with greedy eyes. "How soon can we get it working?" he asked the lead scientist. "Sir, we don't even understand how it works yet," the woman replied. "These materials aren't on our periodic table. The energy source is like nothing we've seen before." "Work faster," General Doyle ordered. "I want weapons applications within the month." What they didn't realize was that the ship contained a warning system. On the Ceridian mothership orbiting Earth, Ilara received an alert. "Humans have captured one of our scout vessels," she told Terranak, who had just arrived from their homeworld. Terranak's face darkened. "Show me." Ilara brought up images from the military facility. They watched as human scientists pried open delicate components of the engine. "They don't know what they're doing," Vex said with alarm. "If they damage the containment field, it could accelerate the environmental collapse," Ilara finished. "We must inform the Council." The Ceridian High Council viewed the recordings from John, Susan, and Alan with mixed reactions. The images of humans working together, innovating, and sharing resources moved many council members. They show compassion and creativity, Terenek argued, qualities we value in any species. Yet their military seeks to weaponize our technology, Elder Kale countered. Even as their world dies, they think of war. Leader Ziv raised her hand for silence. The evidence is contradictory. We need more time to evaluate. Time is what they don't have, Terenek reminded them. In Washington, D.C., President Bennett received troubling reports. Weather patterns were becoming even more extreme. A hurricane unlike any ever recorded was forming in the Atlantic. Wildfires burned across the western states. When her science advisor showed her the latest climate models, she felt cold fear in her stomach. The planet was changing faster than predicted. Millions would die in the coming years. There must be something we can do, she said. Madam President, her advisor replied gently, we passed the point of no return years ago. We just didn't want to admit it. That night, the president received a classified report about a captured alien craft. Furious that she hadn't been informed, she summoned General Doyle to the White House. You directly disobeyed my orders, she sighed, her voice ice-cold. I did what was necessary for national security, Doyle replied without remorse. You're relieved of duty, effective immediately, the president said. And I want that facility under civilian control by morning, but it was already too late. In the underground lab, a scientist accidentally breached the scout ship's power core. There was a flash of blue light, then silence. Hours later, strange weather began forming over the Midwest. Storms with impossible patterns. Clouds that glowed from within. Rain that rose upward instead of falling down. As reports flooded in, President Bennett established a civilian-led task force to handle the alien situation. She needed to find the 3 scientists who had made contact with the aliens. They might be humanity's only hope. Meanwhile, the Ceridian Council continued their debate. The recordings showed humanity's potential for good, but now the damaged scout ship was causing havoc in Earth's atmosphere. We must vote, Leader Ziv announced. Do we intervene to save humanity, or do we withdraw and let nature take its course? As the council prepared to vote, a technician rushed in with alarming news. A massive solar flare had erupted from the sun, the largest ever recorded. It was heading directly toward Earth. Without their help, Earth's weakened magnetic field would not withstand the impact. Billions would die. The vote was no longer about saving Earth's future. It was about saving its present. The silver disc in John Miller's pocket began to vibrate. He was in a small cafe in London, taking his first break in days. When he stepped outside to answer, Alara's voice filled his head. John, we have an emergency, she said. A massive solar flare is heading toward Earth. It will hit in less than 72 hours. John felt his heart skip. What does that mean for us? Earth's magnetic field is already weakened by climate change, Ilara explained. When the flare hits, radiation will reach the surface. Millions will die immediately. More in the weeks that follow. John leaned against a wall to steady himself. Can you help us? The council is still divided, Ilara admitted. But Vex and I have a plan. We need you, Susan and Alan, to help build signal amplifiers at specific points around the globe. If we succeed, our mothership can create a protective shield. John nodded, though he knew Ilara couldn't see him. Tell me what to do. Across the world, Susan and Alan received the same message. Within hours, they were on planes heading to their assigned locations. John to Russia, Susan to Japan, and Alan to Brazil. Meanwhile, President Bennett addressed an emergency session of the United Nations. The room was tense as she spoke. Distinguished delegates, I come before you today with information that will sound incredible, she began. But I assure you, every word is true. She explained about the aliens, the solar flare, and the plan to build signal amplifiers. As proof, she played a recording of her conversation with Ilara. The room erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted that it was a trick. Others demanded their countries receive alien technology in exchange for help. President Bennett raised her hands for silence. We don't have time for politics or negotiations. Either we work together or we die together. It's that simple. Slowly, nation after nation pledged support. Resources were pooled. Military and civilian personnel were assigned to help build the amplifiers. In Moscow, John worked alongside Dr. Natasha Petrov, a physicist who had been skeptical until she saw the Ceridian design plans. "This is beyond anything we have imagined," she said, studying the blueprints Ilara had transmitted. "The way it manipulates energy fields. Double quotes. John smiled tiredly. "Can we build it in time?" Natasha nodded. "With help, yes, but we need rare materials." The Russian government provided everything they requested. Workers and scientists labored around the clock. Similar scenes played out at 11 other locations around the globe. In Japan, Susan coordinated with local engineers. The amplifier took shape on a mountaintop. In Brazil, Alan worked in the heart of the Amazon, his team racing against the clock. But not everyone wanted the plan to succeed. In several countries, extremist groups attacked the construction sites. They believed the end of the world was God's will, or that the aliens had evil intentions. In Kenya, a group of armed men destroyed an amplifier before it was completed. In Australia, another was damaged by explosives. On the Ceridian mothership, the council watched with growing concern. 6 amplifiers have been completed, Vex reported. 4 are damaged beyond repair. 2 are still under construction. "It's not enough," Elder Kale said. "We need at least 9 functioning amplifiers to create a shield strong enough to protect the entire planet. Then we protect what we can," Tyrannik argued. "Better to save some humans than none." Leader Ziv shook her head. "Our technology, used improperly, could cause more harm than good. I call for a vote. Do we proceed with a partial shield, or do we withdraw?" The vote was close, but the decision was made. "We withdraw," Leader Ziv announced. "Recall all personnel immediately." Ilara and Vex exchanged looks. "With respect, Leader Ziv," Ilara said carefully, "we request permission to remain on Earth, to help however we can." "That would violate our non-interference laws," Elder Kale reminded them. "Then we choose to violate them," Vex said firmly. "We cannot abandon these people now." Leader Ziv's expression softened. "You understand the consequences of this choice? You may never be allowed to return home." Ilara and Vex bowed their heads. "We understand." As the mothership prepared to depart, Ilara and Vex took a small craft down to Earth. They landed near the Russian amplifier site, where John and Natasha had just completed their work. "The council has voted to withdraw," Ilara told them. "But Vex and I have chosen to stay." John felt a mix of gratitude and despair. "What can just the two of you do against a solar flare?" "Not much," Vex admitted. "But we have an idea. If we modify the existing amplifiers, we might be able to increase their power." Natasha's eyes lit up. "Like overclocking a computer?" "Similar," Ilara nodded. "It's dangerous. The amplifiers might burn out quickly, but they could last long enough to protect the most populated areas." They transmitted the modification plans to all functioning amplifier sites. As teams worked to implement the changes, military forces from various nations deployed to protect the remaining amplifiers from Sabotage. In Washington, D.C., President Bennett received a secure call from the Pentagon. "Madam President, our satellite array has confirmed the solar flare. Impact in 6 hours." Bennett closed her eyes briefly. "How many amplifiers are operational?" 7, ma'am. Teams are working to bring an 8th online in South Africa. "And our estimates if the shield fails?" There was a pause. "Worst case? Billions dead within weeks." Bennett thanked the officer and hung up. She opened a secure line to other world leaders. Together, they prepared addresses to their nations, explaining what was happening and urging calm. Across the globe, people gathered with loved ones. Some prayed, some panicked. Many simply waited. In Russia, John and Natasha made final adjustments to their amplifier. Ilara stood nearby, communicating with the other sites. "South Africa is online," she reported. 8 amplifiers total. "Is it enough?" John asked. Ilara hesitated. "We'll know soon." Thousands of miles above Earth, aboard the departing Ceridian mothership, Tyrannox stood alone in the observation chamber. He watched as the solar flare approached the small blue planet. Though he had respected the Council's decision, his heart ached for the humans below. Without making a sudden decision, he hurried to the bridge. "Leader Ziv," he called, "I request emergency audience." The leader turned, surprised. "What is it, Tyrannox?" "We cannot abandon them," he said passionately. "Not without trying everything in our power." "The vote has been taken," Elder Kale reminded. Then I call for a new vote," Tyrannox challenged. "Based on new evidence." He activated a holographic display, showing scenes from around Earth, humans of different nations working side by side at the amplifier sites, military forces from former enemy countries protecting each other, ordinary citizens forming human chains around amplifiers to shield them from attackers. "Look at them," Tyrannox said softly. "In their darkest hour, they have found unity. Isn't that worth saving?" The council members watched in silence. Then one by one they nodded. "Return to Earth," Leader Ziv ordered. "Maximum speed." As the Ceridian ship turned back, the solar flare raced toward Earth. The final test had begun. The sky turned a strange purple color as the solar flare approached Earth. People everywhere looked up in fear and wonder. In Russia, John Miller and Natasha Petrov made the final adjustments to their amplifier. The tall metal structure hummed with energy. 1 hour until impact," Alara announced, her silver eyes reflecting the strange light in the sky. Suddenly, her communication device chimed. Her face lit up with surprise and hope. "The mothership is returning," she told John and Natasha. "The council has changed their vote." John felt relief wash over him. "Will they reach us in time?" "It will be close," Alara admitted. "But there's a new problem. We need one more amplifier to create a complete shield. Without it, large areas will remain unprotected." Natasha pointed to a map on her tablet. "The Himalayas. The amplifier there was reported destroyed yesterday." Vex joined them, his expression grim. "We received a weak signal from that location an hour ago. The amplifier may be damaged but not completely destroyed." "Can it be fixed?" John asked. "Possibly," Alara said. "But someone needs to get there quickly." To everyone's surprise, a new voice joined their conversation. "I can do that." They turned to see General Frank Doyle standing at the entrance to their work site. Behind him were a dozen Special Forces soldiers. "General?" John asked, confused. "I thought you were relieved of command." "I was," Doyle admitted. "But I still have friends." He stepped forward, his face solemn. "I made a mistake. I thought the aliens were a threat. I ordered the capture of their scout ship. That action caused great harm," Alara said calmly. Doyle nodded. "I know, and now I want to make it right." He gestured to his men. "My team is ready. We can reach the Himalayan site in 30 minutes by helicopter. Tell us what needs to be done." Alara studied him for a moment, then nodded. She quickly explained how to repair the damaged amplifier. As Doyle and his team departed the Ceridian, mothership appeared in the sky above them. It was enormous, at least a mile across and shaped like a flattened sphere. A beam of light shot down from the ship, and Leader Ziv appeared before them. "The Council has reconsidered," she announced. "We will help create the shield." Around the world, at each amplifier site, the same scene played out. Ceridian representatives appeared, offering assistance with final preparations. People stared in wonder at the aliens who had come to save them. In the Himalayas, General Doyle and his team found the damaged amplifier half buried in snow. Working frantically in the thin air and freezing cold, they followed Alara's instructions to repair it. "Power source reconnected," Doyle reported through his communication device. "But the main relay is completely destroyed. Without it, the amplifier cannot function," Alara replied, her voice tight with concern. Doyle looked at the shattered component, then at his men. "What if we created a human relay?" "Our bodies conduct electricity. The power surge would kill you instantly," Vex warned. "Not if we form a chain," Doyle said. "Divide the current between us." He turned to his team. "It's volunteer only. I won't order anyone. One by one, each soldier stepped forward. They formed a line, each man gripping the shoulders of the one. In front of him, Doyle took position at the head of the line. "We're ready," he said. "Tell us when." Across the world, the remaining amplifiers powered up. The Ceridian mothership hovered at the center of the network, channeling its own massive energy reserves. 20 minutes until impact, Leader Ziv announced. "Activate the final amplifier now." In the Himalayas, Doyle took a deep breath. "For Earth," he said, and placed his hands on the broken connections. Pain shot through his body as electricity surged through him and into the men behind him. But they held firm. The amplifier hummed to life, its energy beam shooting into the sky. To join the others dot from space, Earth now appeared to be surrounded by a web of light. Each amplifier sent a beam to the Ceridian mothership, which then spread the energy into a glowing shield around the planet. "Shield at 90% capacity," Vex reported. 5 minutes until impact. John stood with Natasha, watching the sky. "Will it be enough?" he asked. "It has to be," she replied, taking his hand. The solar flare hit with incredible force. The shield lit up like a second sun as it absorbed the deadly radiation. Around the world, people watched in awe as the sky burned. The shield held barely. In some places, it flickered and failed, allowing radiation to reach the surface. Fortunately, these were mostly over oceans or unpopulated areas. In the Himalayas, the power surge proved too much for the human relay. 3 of Doyle's men died. Instantly, Doyle himself survived, but with severe burns. As the solar flare passed, rescue teams rushed to their location. When it was over, Leader Ziv called for a meeting with world leaders. They gathered in a field outside the United Nations building in New York, standing face to face with the Alien Council for the first time. "You have proven yourselves worthy of our help," Ziv told them. "In your darkest hour, you showed unity. Courage and sacrifice qualities we value highly." President Bennett stepped forward. "On behalf of all humanity, I thank you. Without your help, billions would have died today." "This is only the beginning," Leader Ziv replied. "Your planet's climate is still in crisis. We offer a formal alliance. Our technology to heal your environment in exchange for human creativity and spirit to help solve problems facing both our civilizations." The alliance was quickly approved. The Ceridians established outposts on Earth and invited human scientists to visit their homeworld. John and Natasha were among the first chosen for this honor. Susan Wright was appointed to lead a new international agency coordinating Earth's environmental restoration, using alien technology. Alan Hayes became an ambassador to the Ceridian homeworld. As for General Doyle, he survived his injuries and was pardoned for his earlier actions. His sacrifice in the Himalayas had redeemed him. He spent the rest of his life working to integrate Ceridian defensive technology with Earth's protection systems, ensuring humanity would never again be so vulnerable. 1 year after the solar flare, John stood on a hillside in what had once been a desert. Now it was green with new plants. Ceridian technology had begun to reverse the climate damage. Rain fell in areas that had been dry for decades. The oceans were slowly healing. Ilara joined him, looking out over the transformed landscape. "Your people have surprised us," she said. "We expected it would take decades to heal this damage. With your help, it may take only years." "We're good at fixing things once we put our minds to it," John replied. "Yes," Ilara agreed. "And now you are part of something larger. The first Earthships will soon be ready to join our exploration fleet." John smiled, thinking of how close humanity had come to extinction. Instead, they had found not only salvation, but a new beginning among the stars. The apocalypse that nearly destroyed them had become the catalyst for their greatest evolution. As twilight fell, he looked up at the first stars appearing in the sky. Somewhere up there, humans and Ceridians were working together, learning from each other, building a future neither could have created alone. Earth was healing. Humanity was growing. And the universe had suddenly become much larger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined.